Winter has always been a time for gathering in the longhouse and sharing information around the fire. This is our contribution to that tradition.
Hey, I'm Evan with Hill People Gear. I'm here with William. Some of you folks, if you've read our newsletter, just got introduced to him. He's been with us for over a year now. Done a lot of outdoor stuff. Done a lot of hiking in the high country in the desert since moving out here to work for us, but he's going on his first backpacking trip this weekend. So this is not to be meant to be an exhaustive, like here's a list of everything you should carry. If you want that, we've got a level 3 video that you can go watch where I go through all the gear in detail. But this is more of like a shakedown about what William's taking for this trip. And then after he comes back from the trip, we'll do the second half of the segment and we'll do a post-mortem, lessons learned, and he'll talk through maybe what he's going to change about next time. All right, so the first thing that's kind of interesting, tell me about these boots. What are these boots here, William?
These are Salomon Forces jungle boots. I've been wearing these for about 3 or 4 years now, and I've hyped these up on the Facebook group page a few times. They are basically a combat boot, which is a style that I could never really get away from after being in the Army, but this is what I wish the combat boot had been. Nice and lightweight, kind of like a tennis shoe, but it doesn't blow out after 6 months. So these are really good for the desert. They have nice drain holes for if you do get wet. I tested these out in a creek yesterday on the Gray Mesa for about 30 minutes, and I was super pleased with how these perform in the water, and then leaving them to dry overnight. There's a few little damp spots, but the insides feel good, so I'm confident with these going forward, just literally wearing these in the water the whole time.
Right, so the route you're going on, there's going to be a lot of water walking, is the plan, right? And so that's, for those of you who've done much in the water, like when I come to a mountain stream, I always shuck my boots and walk across barefoot, but if you're going to be in and out of the water a lot, cross that stream is the most dangerous thing you can do barefoot, not because of getting cold or wet, but because of a mechanical injury, breaking your ankle or something like that. So if you legitimately are on a route where you're planning on walking in the water a whole lot of the time, I'm intrigued by this concept, and I'm really interested to see how it works out for William.
Learning experience here. So.
Yeah. I've always said an outdoorsman is somebody first and foremost who's open-minded and pays attention to how things work, because every valley is a different valley. And so if you think you know what's going on, if you're, I got my rig dialed, I never need to change it, you're really not an outdoorsman. An outdoorsman's always learning as he goes. So to me, this is intriguing. What you are going to have to do is carry quite a few extra socks. Like I would recommend a routine where if you're going to go back into the water, there's no point, but like every rest break, you're going to get your feet dry, pull them out of the boots, all of that. And then make sure you have enough extra socks so that if your socks haven't dried out overnight, it's going to be in the desert, so probably they are, but if they haven't, you need a dry pair of socks to start with and in camp, so maybe some extra socks. Okay, so let's, William's actually packed into our version 2 ute, which you'll find out more about later, but let's see what you got here in the bag, William.
All right, sitting here on top, pack's already kind of undone a little bit here. This is just a Nemo, kind of lightweight. They call it a chair, but this could be a pillow. This could go kind of underneath the back part of my sleeping pad. This could just, even out a rough surface somewhere. I go on long enough hikes to where we like to sit and kind of take breaks, especially when Kevin's taking pictures and stuff. And I wish that I had something like this several times. So my most recent trip to REI, I decided this was going to be one of my luxury items.
Perfect.
So
I can't get away from carrying something like that.
Yeah.
I try to drop a little weight, and I always add it back in for all the reasons you described.
Nice. All right, just kind of slide over.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and bust open the main compartment here. You'll notice, looks like just a plastic bag. This is a Nylof fume pack liner.
Okay.
I've had this for a long time, but I've never had any real reason to use it. And basically, this is inside this bag. It's taking up the whole 60 liters here, and there's just enough room to where I can kind of crumple over, roll over the top, and make sure I keep everything in here dry.
So yeah, note on that, I use, for exactly the same purpose, I use an ultralight dry bag that I picked up years ago. One thing I do, usually I end the dry bag on top of my dry stuff. So I pack like sleeping bag, on all that stuff. And then above that dry bag area, it will be the stuff that maybe is going to be wet, like the tent and things like that. But that's a matter of preference. And for the kind of trip William's doing, where essentially he could be submerging that pack, I like the idea of just making the whole area dry space. So
nice. Right here on the top, I've got food, I've got 6 mountain houses, and I've got a bunch of snacks. These have been repackaged just to be able to suck it down, save a little bit of weight. I have a silicone bag in here that is big enough to actually cook all of these in, as well as a titanium spoon.
Okay.
I've written the instructions on the outside of all of them, so kind of try to streamline that. And then I get a ravenous appetite when I'm actually hiking, so big old bag of snacks probably weighs more than the mountain houses do. So.
Yeah, in my experience, this is the hardest place to cut weight. Until you've done it for a while, you don't know what your needs are, and I carried too much food for a long time, but individual needs are going to vary. So this is a place where, you know, when you get started in your backpacking career, you're always going to carry more than you want to, or most folks are. Maybe William finds out this is how much he needed, and he ate every bit of it, and then that's just it. Who knows?
We'll see. Yeah, I'd rather have a little bit more than get hungry there.
Yeah, I always try to carry at least a day or two extra food just as insurance. So
Nice. All right, and then I just kind of have my clothing kind of indiscriminately shoved in here. Kind of a note near the top is my rain jacket, because you want to be able to access that, you know, sooner rather than later. And then below that, moving on to some insulatory layers. I just have a Melanzana hoodie. It's kind of like a Patagonia R1 in weight. Very lightweight fleece that, you know, is honestly great in.
yeah, this Polar-Tech Grid fleece is a great layer for moving in.
Nice.
Keeps you warm, but sheds moisture really well.
I have got kind of a pack-light towel. Especially when you're getting your feet wet and stuff like that. I've changed socks before, and it sucks to have to change into dry socks with wet feet.
Yeah.
It's awful, and I've tried carrying, like, you know, half a roll of paper towels and stuff, but I went ahead and splurged on a nice, I guess it's like microfiber, but you know, this'll.
I've never used one. I've heard good things about it. No.
I'm hoping that it works out. So yeah. And then earlier you mentioned socks. I wasn't going to interrupt you, but I had the same idea, and I do have 3 extra pair of socks here on top of what I normally wear.
Perfect.
These are all by Stance. I have a mixture of their performance blend. It's polyester and merino blend on the thicker ones, and then these thinner ones are all polyester. So no cotton in any of these socks. I think that's important, especially when you plan on, you know, getting your feet wet.
Yeah, right on.
Cool. Got a pair of Patagonia shorts here. These are mountain biking shorts, but these are really just going to be my, you know, water swim trunks, whatever. They dry super quick. They're really comfortable. They have kind of an adjustable belt kind of built onto them, so really low fuss, super comfy stuff there. I have got a set of, well, long underwear, wool, outdoor research. Excuse me, that's just regular underwear. This is my long underwear, just a set of polypropylenes. These are Army issue. I've been rocking these for years, and they're super cheap on eBay these days. I think that this is better than all the super expensive wool and Kathleen. You know, it works. It's kind of loose, which I think kind of retains it better. And that's light. That's like half the weight of my Kathleen I wear.
Nice. Yeah, this is heresy, or well, I don't know if it's heresy. I don't think very highly of wool at all. I think it was a great fabric when cotton was your other choice. Now it's not good at all. It retains water forever, and contrary to popular opinion, in reality, it doesn't retain much warmth when it's wet. It retains more warmth than cotton, but nothing like a synthetic, and then it takes forever to dry. So that's the same kind of choice I'd make as well.
Nice, excellent. Just got another shirt here. This is an Arc'teryx, kind of a sun shirt. These are really my favorites these days, and about half the pictures you'll see me in, I'll have my hood on from one of these. It's a lot easier to throw a hood on your head in the sun than it is to reapply sunscreen every few hours, which I still do on top of that, but I'm kind of pale, I guess, and I just got to make sure I watch out for that sun.
Nobody wants skin cancer.
Yeah, especially in the desert. So nice. And then this is just a synthetic undershirt to go under that. This is just kind of a throw-on, kind of like a light jacket, kind of like a wind shirt. It's, you know, can crumble up into almost nothing. This is an anorak made by North Face. I generally have had this in my backpack as kind of my go-to throw-on jacket for several years now. And
Okay. So you're carrying that instead of a wind cheater?
yeah, and the only reason is weight. I was a little worried what you would think about that, but this thing has proven itself for me. So
You know, that's totally valid. The wind cheater is a little heavy for what it is, and
if it were colder, I would definitely have the wind cheater
yeah.
on.
So yeah, good.
Yeah. Nice. All right, this bag right here, I know it's kind of foo-foo, but this has all my electronic stuff in here. I have a spare battery in here. It's 15,000 milliamp hours, which is enough to charge my phone, my watch, my Garmin InReach, and just keep my flashlight batteries and all that stuff top off if I need to. It's
Perfect.
probably more than I really need.
I
But
carry similar.
I'm just one of those
important
people.
insurance. I've always got one of those as well.
Especially since I'm basically using 3 GPS devices. I want to make sure they stay topped off. All right, moving on into the actual camping equipment here. Evan was kind enough to let me borrow his tent. It's an REI quarter dome.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's pretty lightweight. I set it up, very intuitive. Everything's color coded. I really dig it. And this tent with the poles, I think I got down to 3 pounds. So it's pretty awesome, pretty impressive. This is my sleeping pad. It's a Climax Static V. I've had this forever. It works. I'll have to replace it eventually, and I'll get something insulated. But for now, I'm not gonna replace it till it's broken.
Yeah, so the pad, particularly for the temperatures you're going to be experiencing, no R value. R value is how you measure kind of the warmth of a pad. Summertime, no R value is fine. I've gotten to the point where I'm always going to carry my high R value pad and maybe just a less warm sleeping bag, because the insulation underneath you on the ground is such a big factor in how warm you are overall. But you're going to be just fine with that. And in all honesty, for light trips when it's definitely warm, I've got an uninsulated pad that sometimes I'll still use. So
Nice.
good choice, works fine.
Excellent. All right, and finally, shoved in the bottom here is my actual sleep system. This is a Kelty down bag that I have shoved into one of our 812 sacks.
Okay.
I could definitely get this a little bit smaller if I had like a compressible sack, but at the same time, I'm one of those people who I don't like to compress synthetics as much as they can.
Right, so I'm not a huge fan of using the ultra compression sacks, because like you, my sleeping bag's always going to be on the very bottom, and if you have a rock that you're trying to put in there, it doesn't actually expand and fill into the base of the pack. So what I'd rather do is what you've done, something loose pack, put it in there, and then it molds and contours. If I need to compress it more, I'm going to do that, just shoving stuff down.
Nice, and yeah, I kind of felt that as I was packing too. So yeah, this is a 30-degree Kelty down sleeping bag.
Okay, so that's it for the main bag.
Well, I'm a bladder.
Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about my bladder. Between the time that I packed it this morning with water in it and I got here, I busted a leak somewhere. The good news is it was on the outside of my pack liner. This is all there is to the pack liner, by the way. And so it's localized. It looks like it's not too bad. I didn't lose a lot of water, but I'm gonna have to rectify this before I hit.
Yeah, so those of you who have been watching me for long know that I am no fan of bladders. Every time I get excited about them and use them, I'll end up with some kind of random failure. Do they work, and do a lot of people like them and use them? Absolutely. They're just more finicky and less reliable overall, and I'm old enough, I just want reliable. But Kevin uses one, and like I said, a whole lot of people do. So
I normally do. I've been using this one for quite a while, and I did step on the connector, so it's my fault. I thought it was okay, but evidently there's a slow leak there, so stuff happens.
So how much water are you carrying?
I have in here, this is 2 liters,
Okay.
and this is just what I normally carry, just because
Sure.
this fits inside all the different bags. Super easy, easier than the 3 liter. I also have a 1 liter Hydro Pack bottle right here that I plan on, obviously filling up. And then in the other side, I will have my 1 liter clean canteen,
Okay.
just stainless steel, non-insulated, so that I can boil water in it to cook these mountain houses.
Good. So you're planning on a gallon of water, which it's good. That's you're headed to the desert. gallons kind of minimum, what I carry in the desert. I'd also be looking hard at what the water, basically where your water stops are gonna be, because maybe you should carry more, like if you're gonna have to overnight without water. And I know, you're going with Kevin and he's gonna be dialed in on that, but that's one thing I'd be thinking there. But I like that you're carrying a gallon of water. And so, yeah, I was gonna ask about that cookware. So basically you're gonna boil water in the mountain house. That's a good light, or in the clean canteen for the mountain houses. That's a good way to go. And then stove, that's something Kevin has, right?
Kevin's carrying the stove, yeah. I'm gonna run by REI today and pick up a spare fuel canister,
Right.
carry that at least, but yeah, there's no need for all of us to carry a
No,
stove.
absolutely not. And the same thing's true of like crew medical gear, stoves, any of those things that if you're traveling with a group, you can consolidate. That's a really great thing. So what else do we have here?
Nice.
So in the back pocket, you've got some stuff.
Yeah. In the admin pocket, I just have some kind of easy to access light layers here. I have a down vest by Stoic.
Okay.
I mean, that's a great just, throw on easy core layer there. I've got a polyester hat by Arc'teryx here, just nice, lightweight, DDOBR finished. And again, very light stuff here. OR gloves, as light as they make them, beanie, and a neck gaiter.
Mhm.
Just on the outside, easy to get to, and I should probably add my rain jacket to this
That'd be
pocket
a
as
good
well
spot.
on that same thought. So that's all I really have in there. I do have some kind of core components in here. This is a Nylof runoff pouch, and this basically has all my contingency medical
Okay, good.
and some light repair stuff.
Perfect.
Tenacious tape for the tent or
Mhm.
whatnot. I have a little bit of duct tape in there, paracord, a lighter with some fast fire. Even though we're not, allowed to make fires, it's a survival thing.
Right, right, exactly.
Some deep wipes in there, and then a lot of medication. Just spare stuff.
Right. So without opening the bag, I'm going to say that the size of the bag for kind of the medical / contingency bag looks about right to me for
Nice.
the amount of stuff I carry. So
Excellent. And this is a waterproof pouch. I think I mentioned Nylof runoff. These are really cool. This is
Nice.
the only true waterproof zipper
Right.
that I've found so far.
Right.
So
So without getting into your bag there, I'm going to say that, or without getting into the contents of it, I'm going to say that's really the right size for a contingency / medical bag. That's about the amount of volume of mine, so I'm going to assume you're covered down pretty well there.
nice. This is basically just a waterproof phone case.
Mhm.
I expect we're going to be in the creeks a lot, and it's a cool part of the world. Who doesn't like to take pictures?
Yep.
I take less and less pictures these days because I found myself able to just get into it easier. But still, it's a new place, so I'll probably have to.
You know
find out.
what? That's a great point. It's like, are you in the environment or are you documenting the environment? And I think probably in the modern world, a lot of people, they're not really there at all because they're spending so much time trying to document for the socials what they're doing that they actually never have the experience. So I like the decision making.
Yeah, that was an issue. You'd get 100 yards down the trail and realize you were looking at the settings on your camera that whole time. And you're like, what did I just miss?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I like the way you had everything packed. That's about the way I would. Sleep bag on the bottom, and then kind of your camp gear above that. Basically, anything you might need to pull out, you just kind of stack it in order when you need to pull it out. The one thing looking at all this that I think probably you're lacking on is insulation. So this past weekend I was out in the desert, and of course we were on the back end of a cold front that came through and dropped snow in the high country, but these things aren't always predictable, and it's super important to have the margin of error because there's a couple different reasons you might need to be warm. One is you're in good health, but the weather changed. Another is that for some reason you're not in good health. I mean, there was a time I walked into the wilderness and I was carrying a flu bug with me and spent essentially 5 days. My pickup was like 5 days away, and there were a group of us, but I spent like 4 or 5 days in a sleeping bag throwing up. And so my health was depressed, and had I only had the insulation that I needed for what the expected weather was, I might have had some issues there. But as it was, I always carry a sleeping bag that exceeds the needs, and I had a coat, and so I was just fine. So at any rate, the point is, the other night, this weekend, it was flipping cold out in the desert. It's springtime, it can get cold. So also knowing that, you're a southern man, and I walk into the shop some days and I'm like, man, it's too hot, and you're like, this is perfect.
Great, yeah.
I would definitely have a puffy layer, be it a mountain serape or, a coat that would be lighter than mountain serape. Our product, mountain serape, you can use as an overbag, which if your sleeping bag is down, maybe isn't a bad call, but it's also bigger and heavier than, some of the lightweight puffy coats. So if I were you, I would throw in another decent insulating layer.
Excellent.
All right, well, any other thoughts?
No, I'm just gonna see how it goes,
Yeah.
I used to notoriously overpack. I think I did a good job avoiding overpacking. I went through so many of these things multiple times and pulled stuff out. I think it's gonna work out.
Right, and before we let the camera roll, we talked about he's gonna figure out what to have for dry camp shoes. That, these boots are essentially gonna be dedicated wet boots that he'll expect are wet the next morning. He's not gonna expect them to dry overnight. So he's gonna figure out something to have for dry in camp, or if he ends up maybe even needing to do a lot of dry hiking long enough so that it's worth taking the boots off and stowing in. But yeah, to me this looks pretty trimmed down. You've got a lightweight way of doing your food. Layers look good. So I expect you guys are going to have a fantastic trip, and I'm looking forward to talking to you afterwards to figure out what you liked and didn't like about your loadout. And hopefully the folks watching can see what our process is for figuring out what to take, but also, like I said, always learn and tune in after the fact what worked, what didn't work. So have a great trip.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Right. So Ian's back from his adventure out in the canyon country this past weekend. So first off, first backpacking trip, what'd you think? How was it?
It was pretty amazing. Honestly, I've done so much hiking and so much car camping at this point, it didn't feel like it was too much of a step past that. It was a lot of fun. Big challenge.
Right on. Good. So we're just going to talk about a couple things that kind of after we shot the last segment, we figured out there were some things that we hadn't covered that William in fact had packed. So why don't you go over those right quick?
Okay, first on my prairie belt, I have a small prairie belt, 27 plus, and due to that, I'm limited in the amount of MOLLE spaces that I actually have on the belt. So a normal GP medium, it's 4 MOLLE spaces wide, and on the belt, the way that it curves around my body, the pocket itself, the pouch starts to curve too, and that really impedes access as well as kind of limits what you can actually put inside of there. So my kind of solution was to try out our HPG JL half seat back pouches, because they are basically the exact same as the GP mediums, but they're 3 wide instead of 4. So that basically allows this belt to curve and the pockets to stay straight. So that was
nice.
That was a big plus, and that worked out really well, and it was really cool to kind of just look down and see the belt curved and the pouch is straight the whole time. So,
and you were telling me you carried food on that side.
Pretty much snacking out of the left side the whole time,
great.
And then on the right side is kind of the more important stuff, the stuff that is accessible to my right hand, I suppose. Open this up. First things first. Got a couple of spare Glock mags here. I mean, we go out into cool places that are out and about. So.
And you carried your pistol in your kit bag.
Yeah, I had my 43 in the kit bag as well as another spare mag in there. So. This is hand sanitizer. Really what I was using this for is the moisturizer aspect, because I have oily skin, but you play in the desert for a day, it's gonna suck all that out of there. So sunscreen, very important. Apply liberally. I do wear a hood most of the time, but this is still constantly touching up my face and my nose and stuff like that. So no burns. I don't even think I have a red face, so that worked out pretty well.
Like you do.
Cool. Got 2 flashlights in here. I've got a Zero Light 18650 light. This will turbo at like 1800. This is really nice. This is just kind of my go-to everyday light. And then one of our little Petzl bendies that we sell. It's just the best headlamp.
I've started carrying that myself. It's an awesome lamp.
Most people may be dissuaded, like, oh, it's only 200 lumens, but if it's dark out there, you don't need more than 250 lumens. So
I remember when 50 was a really bright headlamp. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Got a spare glasses rag, and I think there's a couple of anti-fog wipes hidden down there as well. This is one of my, excuse me, my little dehydrated paper towel or toilet paper things. You just give a little squirt from the bladder, and it opens up in a nice rag. This, only had to use that once, but it works. So this is a Bluetooth thermometer. Not something that most people would have, and it looks a little bit clunky, but I don't know, as skinny as I am, I'm always worried about, what layers I need to be having on and stuff. And, through the night, I like to know what the temp is. So this just, I can just look at my phone and basically have a readout of the temp at all times. So that was pretty cool.
I gotta say, William was probably the most techie as far as gadgets are concerned out of the whole crew. So we're always learning from him about neat little things that maybe we do want to carry, we don't want to carry. But if it's something we haven't heard of, chances are he has. So that's kind of a cool aspect.
Nice. I've even got Kevin on a little basic thermometer, so it's just nice to have. More toilet paper, just kind of standard, back up. There's some, like a wet wipe curled up inside of there as well. And then, also very important in the desert is my chapstick. So, this got used very frequently, probably not frequently enough. So, that's really everything.
All right.
That wanted to have on hand right there.
Yeah, so those are things that he did carry that we just didn't talk about last time. So we talked about, you ended up using the jungle boots. How did that work out?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I was kind of hesitant, literally just based on weight, like having boots and everybody saying, hey, you can do this like barefoot, you can do this in sandals. I am so glad I had those jungle boots. They were awesome. The basic amount of support they gave my feet was perfect. I didn't notice any discomfort. I mean, in the water, out of the water. It was an amazing experience, and to be honest, next time I probably wouldn't take a pair of sandals. Well, I might just for a dry camp shoe, but all the hiking's going to be in the boots from now on. Unless I'm like wearing shorts or something somewhere, that might get kind of weird.
Yeah.
Function over fashion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. And then insulation we talked about. I recommend you take some extra insulation. What'd you end up doing there?
Well, I ended up carrying the same stuff that I had in the video prior.
Oh, okay.
I checked the weather a little bit better. I noticed that it wasn't going to get that cold. I kind of made an assumption on that. But at the same time, when I packed my bag out, adding another insulation layer, that takes up a lot of room. So I ended up sticking with my Audi gear, as well as, the polypropylenes and all that other stuff that I had before. So that and the sleeping bag, it may have been a little bit overkill to some people, but to me, it was perfect. I slept comfortably.
Okay. And so, how cold did it get?
I think the low that night was 51. So
Okay.
I think it was even higher than I was anticipating, honestly.
Okay. And so, were you right on the edge of comfort, or were you too warm, or?
I woke up in the middle of the night. My sleeping bag had trapped a lot of warmth down in my feet. I was basically like sweating from my lower legs, and everything here was, very comfortable. But my Kelty had a nice little foot box zipper that I just undid, and that solved all those issues.
Okay. Because that 50 could easily have been 30, and so coming back, I'd be like, well, I had enough insulation for what happened at the end of the day. Like if it had been a cold snap, which can happen.
It can.
There's people I know who just watch the weather forecast, and that's how they plan their trip, and probably they don't get burned that often. You certainly end up carrying less, but I still would say, man, I'd like some extra, because if you get injured, all of a sudden the ambient temps don't matter as much. Now, like your body's having a hard time, so I would still push you to carry more insulation, but you got away with it. And
I did. I do have one of those fancy Mylar blankets,
Okay, yeah.
They come down to
it's
it.
a little bit of extra insurance. So, we're not going to go through by detail everything you carry, but something I like to do after every trip is go through by detail. Did I use it? Did I not use it? Not every trip, but once a year still. Yeah. So just kind of mentally going over your gear list. Is there something that you wouldn't carry, or something you'd like to add? What's your
I hyped up that fancy foam pad that I had, that went on top, and you'll see it in all the pictures. It's that nice colorful foam pad on the top. I've used that one time. And it's not that I didn't like it, because the one time I did use it, it was awesome. It's just that whenever I would actually stop for a break, I don't think let me reach over, undo this, get this down, all this. No, It's basically like, there's a flat spot, let me plop for a sec. So,
And that's kind of what I find when I'm moving. I don't ever use my sit pad, but for me, I'm usually in camp by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I want to sit in glass for hours, and so that's when, for me, that comes into play.
Yeah.
But anything else you would have dropped?
I took that fancy pack towel. That was like a fine sand magnet. I'm pretty sure, because it's microfiber,
Right.
and I guess I didn't really think about. I mean, there's some powdery sand down in there. I mean, it worked okay, but I'll probably drop that next time. I just didn't need it, you know.
Yeah. Anything you'd add?
I don't know. I mean, you know, this is obviously a one-night outing.
Right.
I honestly think I did pretty well. You know,
Okay,
I had some
good.
good mentors. You know, I'm
Yep.
not inexperienced in the whole being
Right.
outdoors
Yeah,
thing,
sure,
so
sure.
it worked out.
Good. Well, there's not going to be a trip video for this, so you're just going to have to get by with the little, vignettes that we've been able to add here, photos and segments. But anyway, that was William's first backpacking trip, and hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, we've got a few more planned this summer already. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty, well, thanks for tuning in, folks.